Wait a minute. Here it is. Pardon my technology skills. This is also from a Gallup product. It is a Gallup product. A few years ago, a book came out called 12 The Elements of Great Managing, and Rod Wagner and Jim Harder were employees. They got together a bunch of data that had been collected. And just like Maslow's hierarchy, they found that there are 12 things that cause people to leave their job. So you start at the bottom of this pyramid. If we don't know what's expected of us at work, we're likely to leave the job. If we don't have the materials and the tools and the equipment that we need to do the job, we're likely to leave. If somebody at our job doesn't give us the opportunity to do what we do best every day, we're likely to leave the job. I love this one. In the last 7 days, I've received recognition or praise for doing good work. When I do workshops and I say that, there are people in the audience who say, what do you mean in the last 7 days? I haven't received praise in the last 7 years. That's a job of a boss. So anyway, you can work your way up this pyramid, and I'm going to leave this with John so that if anybody wants it, you won't find it in the book 12 because I constructed this from what they reported. On the right side of this table or this chart here, this slide, are the 4 essential elements of what are the outcomes of doing good work: productivity, retention on the job, our profit, and in the education world, we call that student achievement, and then customer satisfaction. Every place there is an X in the column, that is a result, there's a result or an impact of that particular factor on that element. So I know what's expected of me at work impacts all 4. So it's a lead up to what are our strengths. So how many of us are told as we grew up, you can be anything you want to be? I pulled out this morning's newspaper, the Kansas City Star, and as I was reading, as I do most often in the morning, I was reading my horoscope. Here's what my horoscope for today. I happen to be an Aquarius, and it says, you have the intelligence and the energy to pull off whatever you set out to achieve. That's not correct. That's not correct. The truth is, you cannot be anything you want to be. I mean, I might have the intelligence and the energy to climb Mount Olympus, but I wouldn't be able to do it. But I can be a lot more of who I am, who I already am, if I know who I am. So I stress with my students, both at the master's level, those folks who want to be school principals, and the doctoral level, those people who want to be superintendents, that they need to know who they are. And they need to know that positively. So there are in this book 34 strengths. And if you already, and it's been around a while, so many of you may have already done the Strengths Finder and know which are your 5 signature strengths. And there are 34 of them. And by taking the assessment, the wonders of technology, they figure out from your responses what your 5 signature strengths might be. I'm not going to go through these because we don't have enough time to do that, but they're very, very interesting kinds of things. And they propel us to do even greater things. If we work on our strengths and we also receive feedback about our strengths, then we are likely to do more and do better. I don't know about you around here, Alex, you may know, or your parents may know of the Johnson County Community College. It's a 2-year college here in Johnson County in Overland Park, and there are some 20,000 students. And the faculty and staff there a couple of years ago all took the Gallup Strengths Finder, and they even wore badges around, with their 5 signature strengths on them so that people could see what their strengths were, and they would talk about them. They would converse about them. It was a wonderful kind of thing. We followed through with that a little bit too at Baker University. We're just down the street from there. But those 34 are they're just wonderful things to know about yourself. So here's the commercial. Don't take it as a I'm not trying to push, just information. You can buy this Tom Rath book online. If you did so, there is a secret PIN number that's inserted inside that book. If you go to the bookstore to buy this book, be sure and look in the back to make sure that no one has opened the secret compartment and stolen the PIN number, because if you buy the book and the PIN number's already been used, you won't be able to do the assessment. You can go online there to the Gallup Strengths Finder, the Clifton Strengths Center, and you can pay a little bit more money, but you get more stuff for it. So my 5 signature strengths, and I can't talk about yours because I don't know what they are, but my 5 are maximizer. You know, I'm interested in, that's probably why I teach in a graduate program. I'm interested in taking people from average to best, or to at least to better. So it's about polishing the pearl. I'm also a developer. That's probably why I'm pretty good at teaching and working with people who are in the throes of writing a dissertation, which is just a god-awful kind of thing to have to do. I'm an includer, and I'll bet some of you are also includer. If you notice when you're standing around in a social circle and doing something, and somebody steps up to the circle and you step back to widen that circle, you're probably an includer. I'm also a connected person. I like to build bridges among cultures. All of my work in education prior to the university work has been in urban school districts, because I've always believed that those folks with their ethnicities and their cultures are important parts of our culture, and we need to find ways to get them connected. And then finally, strategic. You know, we know the difference between strategic and tactical, but I tend to be somewhat strategic in that I see potential in doing things with possibilities. So that's mine. I'm kind of pausing in case there might be a question. Hearing none, I'm going to move on then. So the second book, and I intended to hold these things up. You know, I'm on the small screen now. Whoops, let me get in front of it. Entrepreneurial Strengths Finder was a book that came out in about 2014, also written by some authors who are employed by Gallup organization. They have since changed the title of the book from the Entrepreneurial Strengths Finder to calling it Building and Sustaining a Business. Now, I don't know about you, because like Andre, I think it was Andre, you are in the Big Brothers and Big Sisters organization. That's a business. I'm in education. It's a business. You know, I've in a school district, I've been in charge of a $69 million budget. And that's a business. It's no different than any other business. So here's what our economy might be built on. I'll take you just give you a couple of seconds to read these captions.
Harold, hang on just a second.
Well, he said that they.
Will everybody please mute just so he doesn't have distractions?
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Okay, this one on the left. This really is an innovative approach, but I'm afraid we can't consider it. It's never been done before. Ha ha ha. And on the right, for the final exercise, the instructor asked everybody to practice pushing the envelope. We've been raised with the thought that innovation is what sets us apart here in America. You know, we're the big thinkers. We got all the ideas. That's not quite true. It's not quite true, because without entrepreneurs, we can't move forward. John, are you waving your hand?
Yeah, Harold, you know, question. We all have heard about Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
So Steve has, to his name, 330 patents. But did he have all the strengths to make Apple what it is?
I would contend that he does. I don't know what Steve Jobs' entrepreneurial strengths might be. We're going to get into what those 10 strengths are. But those who take the assessment, the entrepreneurial strengths finder assessment, will find out what their strengths are and where those might take them. I suspect that Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and, they not only had great ideas, but they had what it took to move it forward they were entrepreneurs. So here are a couple of other ideas. You can have an idea today, but if you don't have the power, the strength, the skills, the knowledge to move it forward and build a business, then it just dies. It's just another idea. So the analogy of chicken or egg, which came first, is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the old horse and cart. The cart carries the idea and the horse is the labor that's needed to move the idea forward. This is, and if you'll note that it's pre-pandemic, this ended in about 2011. The top line, the lighter color, are the number of births of businesses in the United States. And you'll see that they've steadily gone down. While the number of firm or business deaths has increased to the point in about 2011, they crossed over. Folks, we're in trouble. 400,000 firms are started annually in the United States, but 470,000 businesses end annually. And this is all pre-pandemic. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen now. We hear, at least it's here in the heartland, I'm sure it's in Washington as well, a lot of businesses are in trouble. What percent do you imagine are small businesses? Anybody have a guess? Of the total number of businesses in the United States, what percentage are small businesses?
Probably
It's
90%.
really high, like 80 to
It's-
90%.
Yeah,
It's
I'd
like
say 85,
99%.
Okay.
99%. Now, I was listening last night on Lawrence O'Donnell, and Kamala Harris came on, and Senator, and she was talking about sponsoring a bill that would, in this pandemic stimulus bill, would help small businesses. Her definition of small businesses were those that had less than 10 or less employees. Because apparently, and I don't profess to know anything about it, but from her comments, apparently a whole lot of folks with small businesses are not getting help, or they're not getting money. So there's help out there for us, and it's called Born to Build. Same way as Strengths Finder, you can buy the book, you can go online, and you can take the assessment. If you buy the book, make sure from a bookstore, make sure it still has the secret pocket in the back with the PIN number still sealed. But you'll find what your strengths are. Here are the 10 strengths: confidence, delegator, determination. I'm not going to read all of these because we're going to run out of time in a few seconds here. I wanted to share, though, with you what mine are. On the left side of the screen are the 6 that came up as my strengths: relationship builder, disruptor, which is creativity; determination, delegator, confidence, and selling. Those that appear as being supporting strengths are independent, knowledge seeker, risk taker, and profitability. Those are ones that would not help me if I wanted to start a business. The ones on the left side would. And interestingly enough, John and I share our first 4 strengths are the same. They're not in the same order, but they're the same. So if you want to talk to John someday about his strengths, you'll find out a little bit more about mine. I know you can't read a lot of this, and I do not intend for you to read this, but I just wanted to demonstrate to you what a creative person in terms of starting things I have been. If you look down the left column, I have started a lot of things in my lifetime. I've begun things. Most of them are in education, but some of them, and Chelsea, if you're still on the call, the Rosebrook Center is a place that is a facility for families and women who are in distress. And I came upon the bright idea that they needed an outreach office. So we exchanged their need for space in one of our school buildings for an outreach office with a little bit of help for our alternative school students. So anyway, down the line, there they are. John mentioned the Warrior Cry Music Project, not by name, and Music for Jeremy's Cherub. So I want to tell you a little bit more about those. In 2008, we lost our youngest son. He was 23 years old, and he was just graduating from college. And he was going to be a music teacher. In fact, he was going to be a band director, and he already had a job secured. And he died of a brain tumor. And so I got the bright idea that maybe it would help if we were to help students with instruments. That number on there has changed since this slide. We have now collected and rehabbed about 2,600 instruments, and we give them to children here in the Kansas City area, but also to places outside of the Kansas City area where there is disaster has struck. I'm preparing right now a shipment that will go to the Dominican Republic to an orphanage that is supported by the Kansas City Royals. They have just down the street from this orphanage, they have one of their academies. And so they got me in touch with me and said, can you help? And I said, sure. So we're going to send them some recorders and some flutes and some clarinets, and all of these things have been rehabbed and are ready to play. We've also we started out sending guitars to Iraq and then to Afghanistan, but now as the war wound down, we don't find that to be quite as necessary. And so we now share those with traumatically injured soldiers, those guys and gals who come back and they've lost a limb or two, but they need some music therapy. And so we've done about 500. I've driven out to Fort Carson, Colorado, and to Fort Hood, Texas, and to Fort Sam Houston, and dropped off loads of guitars. We've also given some scholarships. So we're really pleased with what we do, and we do it all. That's an idea. It started with an idea. It took energy to put behind it. It also took a little bit of delegation on my part. And so I was bent on using my own strengths. So what questions do you have? I'm going to put this slide down, and there it is. Stop share. Bring you all back up. What can I help you with in knowing? Debbie.
So I'd like to know a little bit more specifically about how the entrepreneurial strength finder is different from the other, because I've taken the others. I have multiple ones of those books, but
actually it's not that different. You can find, and I haven't yet found in the training that I've received from Gallup, the crossovers between the two, but I'm strong on relationship building within the entrepreneurial strengths finder, but I'm also strong in the strengths finder on includer and connectedness, and not being afraid of getting together with people, and so they match, or at least they are connected with one another. They relate to one another.
I'm really glad that John brought this up, because I became very familiar with this through my life coaching and positive psychology. I've done. I'm also an educator at a community college, and I'd love for our college to use the Strengths Finder. Was very impressed with Azusa College years ago when I saw that, and now I was looking online, and so many schools are using it as a basis, and it weaves out throughout my work that I tell students. Some of the comments like, don't focus on your weaknesses, focus on your strengths, and manage your weaknesses so that they just don't hold you back, is something I always,
that's correct.
I reminded that, oh yeah, this is woven into my life now in my lingo and language in ways that I'm not even aware of. But as a new business owner, because now I'm doing double duty in my life, I'm thinking I want to use this with my team. Like, I think we should all take the Strengths Finder assessments.
Absolutely.
Like, so there must be programs that help you, like, once you do that, then what do you do with that information?
Right. Well, I think that's how the two of them fit together. We can know our strengths, but what do you do with it other than talk to other people about them? That's where I think that the entrepreneurial strengths finder comes in. John and I were talking the other day online, and he asked, what can we as Rotarians do? I think we're in good position as Rotarians, and many of us are of an age, and some of us are not yet there. But we're of the mindset to give. We want to give back, and there's going to be a whole lot of need out there for people to be mentored, to be coached, and I think Rotarians can do that and do it quite well. I've been talking with my Rotary kind of thing. And so whether it's with students, whether it's with colleagues, whether it's within your circle of the family, knowing one another's strengths is extremely important. I've had 2 of my doc students do their dissertations using the Strengths Finder, because I give the Strengths Finder and then I collect stuff. And I've got a lot of data about Strengths Finder. They have found, both of them have found that once one knows what their strengths are, then they oftentimes reflect on them, which is one of the most important activities we can do, is to reflect on whatever it might be. We can't stop our brains from reflecting on things. We think about what we talked about at breakfast with our spouse, or who knows what it is. It always just comes up.
We're just regurgitators.
Yeah. Well, when you have those strengths in mind, it tends to drive you forward. I'm watching the clock above me, and we have just a few minutes, Mike. Other questions, and then I will back out.
Let me add one thing in here is John's going to come on when Harold is done. And Harold, we're still good for 10 minutes, whatever. But John will give it, kind of let people know if they're interested in doing the test. John will give you an idea how you can do that as well. So, okay, other questions for Harold?
Celine.
Yes, I have a question. Hello, Harold.
Hi.
I lived in Overland Park way back then. So the question that I have is, what is the difference between the entrepreneurial strength finder and the core value index?
I don't know.
Are you familiar with it?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
So, okay,
I don't know.
Core value index.
Okay, go ahead. The name of it?
It's another way of determining where you fall. You are a merchant, an innovator, a builder. So it's another way. So which one? I wanted to see what's the difference between the 2 of them, because I have already done the core value index. I'm wondering if it's worth doing the entrepreneurial strength finder.
Sure. It's just like whether you drive a Ford or a Chevrolet, you become loyal to one or the other. And I've become loyal because of the training I've received to Gallup. So I actually haven't gone out, but I will be going out to look for that one. And I'll be glad to talk with you later on about what I see as the same or differences. I think there are lots of instruments out there. You can find online what kind of dog you're best, you're this or that kind of a dog or something. People have all these assessments out there, and there are some that are valid. We call them reliable, and there are those that are somewhat less. I trust that the Gallup tools are reliable. Okay, Mike, I'm going to go out and turn it over to John.
Thank you, Harold.
Unmute yourself, John.
Okay.
Harold, John, just before you start, do we have anybody else with questions for Harold?
Can you hand me the book over there on the table there?
Okay, Harold, thank you very much. We'll turn it over to John, and don't go anywhere. We'll
be right here. I'm right here.
Okay, I'm gonna do a little promo here for us, for Rotary. And if you zero in on that slide that Harold showed about the companies and the country that are going belly up or leaving, and those that are starting, well, let's take a look at Snohomish County. Imagine what that's going to be in Snohomish County with COVID.
90,000 unemployment
There's 90,000 unemployed right now.
before the 18%.
Celine's telling me that's enough. And then, so here's the question. I think it's time for us to do something ourselves. And we can all look at ourselves and know what the strengths are. And if you've seen the film Moneyball, how many saw the film Moneyball? Okay. We in this Rotary and all the other Rotaries I've been in since the 1980s are like the old timers in Moneyball. We know what we know, we know what we know, and we know it, okay? And it doesn't work anymore, okay? We have to be like Brad Pitt in the Moneyball and bring in that smart kid to say, how do I get, how about getting somebody that can get on base? Not somebody with the big biceps and the small waist, but somebody that actually gets on base. How do we do that? And the kid tells them, and they do that. Watch Moneyball if you haven't seen it. It's one of the best movies. We need to be a Moneyball Rotary, okay? And I will tell you, I'm coming from a disruptor characteristic, okay? So I'm interested not in not playing within the rules. I'm interested in creating something of value in a crisis. We are in the biggest crisis of our lives. And our tendency in Rotary, all the clubs I've been in, is to say, we've got it together, we're doing good, and we're taking care of other people by giving them money. Well, that's not going to be enough in this century, okay? It's not enough. So that's it, I'm done. And I challenge you all. I've taken this already. I spent the 1995 to do it. I invested 1995 and I've done it, and I'm happy to share my strengths, but my strengths are not going to be the same as yours. And for the first time, I realize I don't get to use my strengths in Rotary. I don't get to use my strengths. And so I would like to use my strengths in Rotary. And I think you would too, if you knew what they were. That's it.
Hey, John, tell people how they can get a hold of it.
Just online,
Amazon.
Born to Build, Amazon.
Will you do me a favor and send information out? So if members want to
Sure.
pursue
Well, it's
it,
right. Yeah, we got it right here.
okay.
Harold
It's good
can
stuff,
send it.
and let's be sure people know how to access it if they want to go in and take the survey.
Sounds
So-
good.
I just pulled it up. Can you guys see my screen now?
Uh-huh.
Whoops, let me get back to it. Oh, geez, what did I do? There it is. So if you just Google Born to Build, it takes you to, you can obviously buy it on Amazon or you can go directly to Gallup, and it has it here. When you order the book, like Harold mentioned, there's a little secret flap on the back where you can have a code and you would just redeem that access code by clicking there.
Yeah, so be careful if you get a used one, because like Harold was saying, then you might not have that. So a new is better because you'll have it for sure.
Precisely. So you just enter in your code, and then when you do that, then you'll be able to go through and actually take that survey.
Harold, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So let's say the entire group here takes the strength. So now they know their strength. Will you come and facilitate on helping this group on how to leverage those strengths to do something about it with it?
I'm a wonderful facilitator. I'd be glad to join you.
Okay. So
I don't teach, I have 4-hour class with 25 students, and right now they're all on screen, so it's kind of hard to keep up with them, but I've been able to do that better. But my teaching style is to listen and to guide discussion. I'd love to do that with y'all.
Okay, interesting. Other questions, Deb?
Well, I would just like to say, I mean, one way that I see of using this within our Rotary Club is that you have to know about yourself, like Harold was saying. Your self-knowledge is where your powerful knowledge comes from, but then knowing about each other and then knowing how we can tap into each other's strengths and utilize them as a group. And if someone isn't feeling connected, it's like then, the connectors need to connect with people. So, and the people who are the disruptors like John need to be able to voice things and to challenge, so if we understand and have the same language to talk about and communicate about this, it helps. I think that's one of the powerful things of all taking assessments and then discussing it and having conversations. Have a new language to talk from where you can discuss it in that manner and then kind of analyze things and think about how we can use them for the greater good, because we're here to serve, right? Rotary's
Right.
service above self. And that's what we all love doing. And we're all feeling a little constrained right now in this world that we're functioning in. But if we knew our strengths and knew each other's, we could probably perform and function better and feel more satisfied and fulfilled, even though we're functioning differently in our world right now.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Debbie. You know, my own club, I was president last year, and we were a club that raised large amounts of money. There are about 90 members. We raised large amounts of money and we gave it away, and we found, you know, that wasn't quite satisfying. And so last year we started what we now call pop-up projects, and 10 or 15 or 20 of us will go to some organization and do some actual get your hands dirty work. But it's been interesting to see that kind of thing as opposed to, and I believe, and I'm talking with my club now, they're not my club to lead anymore, but I think we're all leaders. We have that desire, and it's getting stronger and stronger the longer we're cooped up, and it'll burst out one day and we'll want to get back to doing those pop-up projects and getting out there and doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I talked to Sheila yesterday. I had this idea because I went to register to give blood and then I had to change it. But I said, why can't we do a pop-up blood drive? Because we're our club, like we're coming there, we're giving blood. And then while we're doing that, we're seeing each other, you know, interacting a little bit. So I sat on to Renee and she's looking into it because the whole blood drive thing has changed, but it would serve multiple purposes.
Harold and John, one comment: when I went back and got my MBA 25 years ago, I had the degree, but I didn't have any experience. I worked with a couple of ladies here in the community, and we did personality profiling for a lot of the medical companies and so on. And I think one of the best things that came out of it for me is, you know, I think we all have a fairly good idea what we're good at and so on, but this fleshes them out better for you. But the other thing that I think benefited me the most was having a much better understanding of, you know, in the profile we used, it was dominant, influencers, steadfast, and compliant. Right. 70% of the world are steadfast and compliant people. They're not outwardly leadership type folks. And it was very helpful for me to have a much better understanding of, especially with my personality, which most of the people in the group will tell you is not real understated to start with, is to know how you come across, but also, okay, how do I work with people that don't think like I do, that don't, you know, act like I do, who maybe if an opportunity comes up, their first reaction is to step back and go, whoa, this is scary. I have to think about it, and so on and so forth. This group of Rotarians, we're pretty much, hey, you know, strap it on, let's jump in and get something done. You know, which is one of the big appeals to Rotary. But I found that most helpful was not only to understand myself, but to understand how other people work.
Yeah. You know, I don't start with the strengths finders or the entrepreneurial with my doctoral students, actually. And these are guys and gals who've been in education for a long time. And they've all taken the Myers-Briggs, but I still make them go back and take the Myers-Briggs. And we take a long time to look at that. Actually, we take a revised form of the Keirsey temperament sorter, Keirsey. And Keirsey is a guy who came along and picked up the Myers and Briggs work. And it's language like the Gallup stuff. It's written in language that we can understand better. It's not scientific. It's not inside the loop kinds of language. So yeah, I'd encourage all of you to go look up the Keirsey temperament sorter.
Okay.
You can do it for free.
Okay, thanks. Any last questions for Harold?
Do you find that people's strengths shift over time in their life when they're in different life stages?
They do one of two things, yes. They either mellow out or they become more entrenched. Okay. Some get more entrenched, especially when it comes to feelings about other people and I hate to say it, but some people, you know, become much more, they become stronger in their anti feelings. But then those who mellow out, you know, they started out at one end of the spectrum, and then they're pretty good people by the time, in my estimation. I've enjoyed being with you all, and you all are just like our Rotary clubs around here, just good people.
Thanks, Harold. We really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And as we said, if we do a follow-up, we'll give you a call and
Yes.
go down that road. But
I expect that.
very much appreciate your time and joining us, and have a great Memorial Day weekend, okay?
Thank you. You all too.
And same to
Bye.
everybody else. Have a great Memorial Day, and hope we'll see
Hey,
you
Mike.
next week. Yeah, Sean?
I just want to add one quick thing. We were live streaming this meeting through Facebook today.
Okay.
So if you go to the South Everett Mukilteo-Rotary Facebook page, you'll be able to see this. And so you're welcome to share it with anyone that you might think would find value in it, whether it's
Thanks,
here
Sean.
in Mukilteo or Everett or in your neck of the woods, Harold.
Thank you.
And
You
Harold,
bet.
if you get a chance, it's beautiful country out here. Come out and see your cousin in
I will.
Vancouver and your friends in Portland.
Yeah.
And we'd love
I
to
told
have
the student I was coming.
Okay. Everybody have a great weekend, okay? Thanks for joining, and
Thank you.
Everybody.
go Rotary.
Thanks,
Go
everybody.
Rotary.
Have a good
See ya.
weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
By the way, I don't think it was